Something weird happened to me recently. I worked less than I ever had and somehow got more done than ever before. Same business, same laptop, same 24 hours. But something shifted, and it had nothing to do with discipline or motivation or waking up at 5 a.m. Just for the record, I wake up around 7 to 7:30 a.m., so no major efforts here. What changed was my setup. Not my mindset, my actual system. And once I figured out what was working, I couldn't unsee it. Today, I'm breaking down exactly what that system looks like, the specific changes that made the biggest difference, and a few that honestly surprised even me. So let me start with the thing that surprised me most, and it's not what you would expect. The first one is doing the hard thing first. Not the easiest task to build the momentum, but the hardest one. The thing that you've been avoiding, and I do this before I open email, before I check anything, because I noticed that if I start with something small and easy, I never quite get to the thing that actually matters. But if I nail the hard thing first, then everything else that day feels manageable. It's like the first domino. Get it right and the rest fall. Second, protect your focus like it's your most valuable asset, because it is. Every time you get interrupted, it takes about 23 minutes to get back into deep focus. So every notification you allow, every tab you open mid-task, that's not a 30-second distraction. That's potentially half an hour gone. I work in 40-minute blocks now, one task, and headphones are usually on, and everything else can wait. Third, stop deciding what to work on every single day. I decided to theme my days, and this one genuinely changed how my week feels. I have days that are purely for content creation, filming, scripting, editing. Other days are just for strategy, planning, looking at the bigger picture. And some days are admin only, emails, invoices, the stuff that has to happen but will eat your whole day if you let it bleed into everything else. It sounds rigid from the outside, but it's actually the opposite, because the decision is already made before you sit down. You are not negotiating with yourself at 9 a.m. about what you feel like doing. You already know what today is for. Fourth, use deadlines against yourself. This sounds obvious until you actually try deliberately. Work expands to fill whatever time you give it. It's called Parkinson's law, and it's annoyingly real. I used to give myself a week for things that, when I was honest, only needed 2 days. Now I set the tighter deadline on purpose, and I tell someone about it, so there's actual accountability. The combination of a short timeline and a witness does something to your brain. Suddenly, the task is very doable, very fast. And fifth, make your progress visible. I used to think that I got distracted because I lacked discipline, but that wasn't it. I got distracted because I couldn't see any evidence that I was doing was working. When I started tracking streaks, even just marking out days on a simple tracker, something clicked. You're not fighting laziness anymore. You're protecting a streak. It's a completely different feeling. Make it visual, make it simple, and make it something that you actually look at every day. Now, if you ask me where a ton of time goes in my business, and most online businesses these days, it's visual content production. You've got the strategy locked, you've got the copy, and then you spend hours sourcing images, briefing designers, going back and forth on revisions, and that bottleneck kills your momentum. That's exactly why I've been using Seedream 4.5 by BytePlus. I partnered with them in this part of the video, and honestly, this is the tool I wish I had 2 years ago. Seedream is a new AI image model that generates stunning 4-quality visuals from a text prompt or a reference image. And it's the industry's first model that can batch generate up to 15 story-driven images in one go with consistent style. So if you're building a product campaign, a content series, or branded visuals, you're not starting from scratch on each one. You describe it once, set the style, and Seedream keeps everything cohesive across the whole series. You can also feed it up to 10 reference images to fuse styles, which means your brand guidelines actually stick. The API is clean, the integration is fast, and right now you can try Seedream for free. Check the link below. I would genuinely recommend you starting with the Experience Center to see what it does with your own content. Now here's what I think is the most underrated piece of this whole conversation, and it took me a long time to actually take it seriously. None of these systems work if your energy is gone. You can have the perfect schedule, the themed days, the deep work blocks, and still sit down at your desk and produce complete garbage because you are running on empty. I know because I've done it. I had great systems and terrible energy management for a long time, and I kept wondering why the results didn't match the effort. The shift for me was realizing that energy isn't something that you have or you don't have. It's something that you generate actively through the choices you make every single day. For me, that starts in the morning. I move before I work, and even if it's just 10 minutes, I don't touch my phone for the first half an hour. Not because some productivity book told me, but because I noticed that whatever I consume first thing in the morning sets the emotional tone for my entire work session. Read something stressful, and I carry that into my deep work block. Start clean, and I actually think clearly. The other side of this is what I call a reset. When I hit a wall midday, and I always hit a wall midday, I don't push through it. I get up, move around. Sometimes that's a short walk, sometimes it's just standing outside for 5 minutes. It sounds almost insultingly simple, but the difference in the output before and after is real. You're not managing time, you're managing the quality of your thinking, and your thinking runs on your body. I'm curious, what's your biggest energy killer during the workday? Drop it in the comments, I genuinely want to know. And now I want to touch on the idea of subtraction, because here is what I kept doing wrong for years. I would find a good system, get excited about it, layer it on top of everything that I was already doing, and then nothing would actually change. More structure, same results. The system only works if you also cut things. Personally, I just had to be honest with myself about where my time was actually going. Not where I thought it was going, but where it actually went. I did this by tracking my time for 1 week, which was uncomfortable because the results were not flattering. So it turns out a significant chunk of my day was going to things that felt like work, but they were not really moving anything forward. Low-value tasks that I could automate or outsource, conversations that drained me, decisions that I was making manually every day that could just be made once. And the not to-do list is just as important as the to-do list. What are you doing right now that someone else could do, an app could handle, or that simply doesn't need to happen at all? Start there. So how do you put all of this together practically? I design my week in advance. Every Sunday, I spend about 15 minutes looking at the week ahead and making sure that the structure is in place before Monday hits. Not hour by hour, just the big rocks, the non-negotiables. Deep work blocks go in first, then anything that requires collaboration or calls, and then the admin and low-focus tasks fill whatever is left. The key is that the most important work is protected before anything else gets scheduled around it. I used to do this backwards. I would fill my calendar with meetings and reactive tasks and then wonder why there is no time left for the work that actually matters. Now I plan around my energy, not just my time. I know that I'm the sharpest in the morning, so that's when the hard creative work happens. Afternoons are for calls, reviews, for lighter tasks. What about you? Are you a morning person or do you work best later in the day? Comment below. I'm always surprised how split people are on this one. Here is what I want you to take away from this. You are not unproductive because you lack willpower. You're unproductive because your system isn't built for how your brain actually works. But you can fix systems. You can build new habits. Pick one thing from this video, just one thing, and try it this week. The themed days, the hard thing first, the energy reset, and see what happens. Then add another thing. The version of you that gets everything done isn't some future disciplined person. It's you with a better setup. If this was useful, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, and if you want to know which are the best business ideas that you could start this year, then check my next video up there, and I'll see you in that next one.